Ooh, yeah, yeah. They say it's alright. They say it's alright. Say it's alright. Have a good time. 'Cause it's alright. Whoa, it's alright. Now we gonna move it slow.
Hello, and welcome to the second episode of Chor Leoni Inside. I am Erick Light, the artistic director of Chor Leoni, and I want to thank everybody watching because I'm sure a lot of you last week made this like a really popular show. We had thousands of views, hundreds of viewers. It was just it was amazing on different platforms. I know we had a little bit of a Facebook screw up, but I think we've got that all ironed out this week, and we just couldn't be more pleased to have you with us. Before I go on, I want to make sure to just help some of you find this every single week. As long as you subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the notifications button, if you do both of those two things, you should be in great shape to know when we're on. So you don't even have to think about it. And we should be, hopefully next week, having this embedded in our website. So technologically, we're moving forward. I want to get right into our first piece of music and kind of staying on our theme of the English Isles here in Ireland with our guest Michael McGlynn, who will be coming up later. But this is a recording that I did with Chor Leoni a number of years ago, and we just did it as filming it at a rehearsal after one evening. And this is an arrangement of the Turtledove by the great English composer Ralph Vaughan Williams, and it's a very straightforward and simple arrangement. Vaughan Williams was so instrumental in collecting folk songs and incorporating them into classical music, and this is, I think, one of his best settings for male voices, and it features soloist Byron Hanson. This is the Turtledove. Never quite sure if a song that's sad should end with a major chord like that. That one goes out to Russell Cripps, one of our baritones, who never liked that last chord, but I loved it. That is the Turtledove, arranged by the great English composer Ray Vaughan Williams, Byron Hansen, the soloist, and a lovely way to enter into this evening full of Celtic music and Icelandic music with our guest, Michael McGlynn. Michael has been the leader of the vocal group Anuna, who's been around since the late 80s, 90s, and an incredible vocal ensemble, really doing music making and choral music in a very original and different sort of way. And his compositions and arrangements have been the hallmark of that group, and his vision for that group has been what's been the driving force. But he's, in the last couple of years, also started two other new groups, a group called Sheepstealer, which is a women's group, and Manam, which some of you may recognize that Chor Leoni was about to have them come here for the North American debut in a couple of weeks, and that got the kibosh. But we thought the second best thing was to connect with Michael via this show. And so we actually taped this conversation earlier. Michael did not want to stay up till 3 a.m. doing this interview since he is in Ireland. So we want to play for you now my interview with the wonderful Michael McGlynn. Welcome, Michael McGlynn, to Chor Leoni Inside. How are you?
I'm ecstatic.
That's excellent. Right before we went on, you told me that you just received a haircut, and I assume that was not from your regular hairstylist or barber.
No, it was from my daughter, Lauren, who's 13, and she stabbed me at least 4 times. It's very hard to say that's beautiful and, wipe away the tears, but I'm actually used to insincerity in my job.
I understand. I think you look really nice, and she may have a future there, but little training. I'm glad you're the guinea pig.
Yeah, but I'm all pierced around the back of my head as well. So I don't know. I'm not sure about that. Hairdressing is not her thing. I think flexibility is good in life, and confidence. So I'm giving her confidence.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for being with us. We were supposed to get together in a few weeks and have Manam here and have you with us. And we're of all the things I've been sad about professionally, the chance to not to do that in person has been one of them. But to have you here is just is
not
as
the
close
same
as we can get. Yeah, it's not the same. And I can tell already we would have had a really, really, really great weekend. But thank you again for doing this. We were going to bring Manam and you. Tell us a little bit about Manam. It's a relatively new project for you.
I suppose in the context of choral music, it is kind of brand new. It's a brand new idea in that it's the first time, I think, the two very ancient cultures are combining in this way, which is the Icelandic and the Irish culture. Initially, when Manam was set up, it was supposed to be just about Ireland. And in fact, the name is 2 Irish words put together, Mo Anam, my soul. And I'd always been toying with the idea of setting up a group for guys only, as Anuna is very strongly orientated towards the female voice. And then it developed over a year or two, and it started off as Irish, and then we met a bunch of guys from Iceland. And it just suddenly exploded. It just happened. The Icelanders are so open, and they tend to, I think their system of music education is very different to ours in that anything goes. Everyone has to be an expert in everything. Everyone has to be able to do everything. So when you say, try that, the first words are no, in most cases. But in Iceland, it's, oh yeah, I'll do that. I'll give that a go. So Manam's a bit mad, but it's wonderful, and it's growing at an incredible rate.
It's been amazing watching this take off, and I know that only success is in the future. I want to give everyone a taste of what you do, and we're going to play Bando Ribbenen, which was actually a piece we were going to perform together. Tell us a little bit about this work, where it's based off of, and where you took this piece.
Well, Bando Ribbenen is, in its original form, it's two Scottish Perthbuel, two dancing texts.
Mouth music, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mouth music, yeah. But I wanted to create something completely new. So the melodic ideas are sort of based on Scottish ideas of that intense rhythmic thing that they do in their tradition. And I also wanted something that when the guys sang together, they could really sing with a lot of power. So it's neither Irish nor Icelandic, but we're halfway there with Scotland. We really are. And it's about a band of ribbons around the head. So it's a kind of a nonsense text. And in fact, the video was filmed in a very famous bar, very close to where I live here. And this is very much part of the Irish idea of Manam. And it's one of the earlier pieces we did in the earlier videos. So it developed very differently later on.
And I love that you made the video for this in a pub. It seems the exact right place. Let's let everyone get a taste of Manam, and here's Bando Ribbenen.
Because there's no
Yeah, rock and roll.
Rock and roll. You're a band. It's just fantastic. It's got such the right.
Yeah, it's a cool piece, and the guys love singing it. It's kind of strange to realize actually they sang that live. Although we used the original backing track with it, most of that is sung live. But I do know one thing: it's not an easy piece to sing. the notes are easy, but my wife was actually saying to me the other day, she said, you look at your music and it looks easy, but it's actually not about the notes. It's about how to sing them. And I think that's one of the things that makes it very difficult for me being a director who's also a composer, in that I'm actually quite intolerant of particularly conductors coming in and saying, I'm going to interpret what you're doing. And you say, that's okay if I've left leeway for that. But something like Banna Ribbon, it needs to be sung at the right metronome marking. It needs to be sung correctly with the correct pronunciation. So it needs to have that energy. And, I love it when someone comes in with a valid idea or something to change something. So Banna Ribbon still not available. I think it's only just become available as sheet music. And I'm really looking forward to hearing what people actually do with it. Because to me, I don't hear it as flexible at all. But, there's a lot of diverging opinions out there. I'd be fascinated to hear.
I think there is. It's definitely straightforward in a way as far as how to interpret. But I also feel there's parts of phrasing hiding out inside this piece that you, especially if you listen to a group like Manam do it, and with your direction and your vision for the piece, you feel that not every downbeat is the most important part of how to sing the piece. So there is still, I think, a lifting off of the page that has to happen interpretively, but it's to get what's really there, if that makes sense. That was my experience actually.
It does, and it's they're very much, when I work with Manam, they're very much left on their own. They don't have a conductor, and I am usually not allowed near them when they're rehearsing. I only come in at the last minute, and the first thing I'm told is, "Yeah, great, you have your opinions. We're doing it this way."
Thank you, Mr. Mozart. You can go sit in the corner. Yes.
That's what a collaboration is about. That Manam is very much a collaborative group. It's not. It's a band, and I think as time goes on, it's going to be much more of a band, because you're dealing with people there very often who are used to not making their own decisions and being told what to do. Right. And I think that's the power of good ensemble work, is to let people have opinions, but also to be able to control those opinions and not just have everyone talking at the same time. So they're getting there. It'll take a while.
It's one of the hardest things, having been in one of those myself. It's when it works, it is absolutely joyous, and there's no music making quite like it. I want to ask you, throughout your career, you have always presented a really strong visual, whether that was in your concerts, your live performances, and especially with the videos that you've been making. And now here we are. We're all stuck, we can't do live concerts anymore, at least for the time being. But your work is out there and living in ways that are not just a group of people standing on a riser singing the music beautifully. When did you decide to develop this visual image, and especially focusing on the making of these music videos?
I think in the very early stages, with Anuna, right back in the later part of the 1980s, you're presenting music that some of it is accessible, but most of it is not. You're presenting it to people who don't know anything about it. And remember, choral music is not really part of our culture in a way it is with other European countries, or even...
You talk about Ireland, yeah.
Yeah, so... I found very often I'd be standing in front of 300 or 400 people, most of whom didn't know anything about choral music. So you have a virgin audience, and that means you've got to entertain them. And there's nothing worse than putting across your effort. The whole point is to make the audience feel that it is effortless and they are comfortable.
Right.
And one way of doing it is sticking on a wig and wearing a short skirt and jumping up and down. But another way is to actually try and communicate with people in a meaningful way. So Anuna begat Manam in that way, in that right at the start, it was all about how to present the performance so that the audience were not alienated from it, and that nobody who came in felt that this was something that was above them or something they couldn't understand. But you didn't want to talk down to them either. And Monum, I think, in particular with the visual elements of it, you see, I don't see any distinction between writing music and making videos. For me, it's all the same thing. For me, it's all one creative art. And I always get a little bit frustrated, particularly with choral directors who don't really understand that the composer, the creator of the visual, and the creator of the musical impulse, they all really are either one person or they're three people that are combined as one, in that the three of them have to be able to communicate. So first of all, you have to have an ethos and you have to have a vision. I think Chor Leoni definitely has one. And you can see that in the way that there's such cohesive presentation. And also there's a passion, and that passion is what is portrayed first, not just it's a choir. The first thing you go is, that's Chor Leoni. It's like when you look at Chanticleer, that's Chanticleer. They've got a thing. And Monum are very much the same. With me, the visual is equally as important as the musical portrayal. But first you have to have the song. And it does help. I create the song first. So I create the song, then I create the visual, and then the band come along and they go, okay, well, we have an opinion here, so let's change this and let's have a go at this. So it's great. It's a dialogue. It's a trialogue. It's a quadrilogue.
And you've kept yourself involved in all of those aspects, so you have to have conversations with yourself, I'm assuming. A lot.
I talk a lot to myself, an awful lot. And sometimes I listen, and sometimes I put a bag over my head and sit in the corner.
Do you have different hats you put on just to know, like to help you?
Well, I do find the hardest thing for me is actually writing music. I find that really, really difficult. Yeah. I think because I have moved into so many other areas, actually getting down to my bread and butter is very hard. And the good thing with Monum is that their voices allow me to get inspired and write again for something new. But I have also set up another group called Sheepstealer, and they're a female group, 6 voices. And I think we'll be working a lot more on that next year in particular. But for the moment, Monum is pursuing its own very distinct road and very distinct course.
Well, I want to play another one of these amazing videos, the Sheepstealer. Tell us a little bit about the song and the video as well.
Well, this was a collaboration with the soloist, Fergus Cahalane. Fergus is a proper folk singer in that he specialises in songs in the English language, but mainly from Ireland. So you hear in the way he sings, he's got this incredible capability to sing ornamentation. And also, it's kind of interesting. This song he heard from somebody else. He brought it to me, and I listened to it, and I realised he changed it. So he'd already developed it. And then I came along and I changed it again. And when it's presented, it's so different from the original form that it's really a new song. So the pair of us, great fun creating something new together. It's a tale of a man who kills a sheep and he knows he's going to hang for it. And it's this fake justification all the way through for why he does it. But it's a tragic, very harrowing text. Very harrowing.
Well, let's listen to it now. This is the Sheepstealer.
I am a brisk lad, my fortune is bad. Oh, and I am most wonderful poor. Ah, but well I intend my sad life for to mend, and build a house down on the moor, me brave boys, and to build a house down on the moor. brother does keep fat oxen and sheep, and a neat little nag on the down. In the middle of the night, when the moon do shine bright, there's a number of work to be done, me brave boys. There's a number of work to be done. I'll prowl all around on another man's ground and take a fat sheep for my own. I will end of her life on the edge of my knife, and then I will carry her home, me brave boys, and then I will carry her home. My children will hew the skin from the ewe. We will be in a place where there's none. When the constables do come, I will stand with my gun and swear all I have is me own, me brave boy, and swear all I have is me own.
A great song.
Oh, it's just haunting. And for folks that are, figuring out how this all works with us with the Chor Leoni Inside, we've also started a further Inside segment that will appear on YouTube on Thursdays. And Michael and I talked a lot about his approach to arranging and how much he is guided by the original material and where his creativity comes in. And boy, that's just a wonderful example of those things that you were talking about. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you'll get all the notifications for when those go up as well. I've been told I'm supposed to say all of those sorts of things. So there's your commercial for this time. But that is it's just so haunting, and such great space that you've left in that arrangement for the singer. I think sometimes we forget sometimes the song is for the singer, right? And instead of the notes.
It's very much as well, it's a collaboration as well, because you can't, Fergus sings it one way, and that's it. His interpretation of that song is vital to the transmission of it. I think also that, nowadays music has become disposable. Everybody is making music and putting it up on Bandcamp or Spotify or whatever, and there's so much rubbish out there, people trying to sound like other people. So when you have a very distinctive voice like that, or a lot of the other guys in Monum, they particularly, there are many incredible soloists in the group. I don't like directing them and telling them how to sing them. I just present them with the song, or they present me with a melody, and we work from there. So it's a very new experience for me. I'm used to being a musical tyrant, and I enjoy that, but sometimes one gets tired of tyranny.
And you heard it here. You've now met all of these guys from Iceland, and that has also been such a huge part of this Monum project. How did you all meet? How did the band get together?
I believe in serendipity. I believe in happy accidents. And in fact, this happened quite extraordinarily. On Una were doing a concert in the Netherlands in 2016. And I was watching a video online. Somebody sent me a copy of a recording of my song Dulamon being done by this group made up of guys from Iceland and the Netherlands and Russia. And I thought it was great. So I wrote to them and they said, oh, we're in Utrecht. So I said, God, we're in Utrecht next week. Why don't you come along? And they turned up and there was this massively tall guy who was there and he was a tenor. And I looked at him and I thought, hey, God, he's interesting. He's a great singer. And I said, hey, do you want to come and sing with the Nuna? And he went, okay. So he came and he sang with us for a concert. And then I heard him sing and I thought, what is this voice? And that's when Manam was born, because Bjarni has a very particular, strange, ethereal sound, very unusual sound. And he features on 2 solos on the Manam album. And with him, he brought in Philip Barkudarov, who is this extraordinary mega bass that we'll be hearing from later on, and Piotr Himison, who is Icelandic, and Philip is Armenian, Russian, American. So he has that wonderful, orthodox, rich, relaxed sound, and he's fantastic to work with. But we also have singers from other countries in Manam. We have Jan Kuhar from Slovenia, and also from Slovenia we have Nate Rudel. We have a couple of Americans as well associated with it. So it's a fluid membership, mainly Irish. And we only sing with 8, but we try and keep it kind of half and half, because we feel that, you know, it's that melting pot makes Manam so exciting, being able to sing strong classical material and rock music and anything, but in our own distinct way, our own distinct thing.
It's such an interesting switch, you know, in choral music so predominantly is, here is the score conformed to the sound that, you know, maybe the conductor has in their head, or what's been passed on to us for, you know, hundreds of years as far as what a beautiful choral sound is. And this seems like everything is created around the individuals that are there, whether it's the solo, the repertoire, it's the aesthetic of the group, the idea of what the group is going to be. I just find this so refreshing. Thank you.
I think you see, all of this stems back to Anuna, because Anuna isn't like any other choir in the world. It comes from a country with no indigenous choral tradition. It has an imported one from the Church of England and from the English culture. And then you have a lot of influence coming in from Hungary and the Kodai schools. But Anuna is a true original. It's completely original and completely new. So when I set that up, I didn't have any rule book. So everything is common sense. So if we don't need a conductor, we shouldn't use one. Write material for a group that's not conducted. Why does every single piece need to be conducted? And then what's extraordinary is that when I work with conductors who work exclusively in the manner you mentioned, you see that they are just as constrained by this. So the whole point of Manam and Anuna is to free artists. We are all artists, the conductor, the singer. And singers that don't feel that they are artists won't be artists. And conductors that feel they are metronomes are never going to be artists. You know,
we're back to virtual choirs at that point. We might as well do something else. Yeah.
I agree on that point massively, massively.
Well, and this is why we wanted to share music in this way at this time when we can't be live, but really show the real thing. And this is certainly that. Tell us a little bit about Bitter Wind. I want to play that for everyone. I think this is just a striking piece of music and an amazingly gorgeous video.
Oh God, I'm trying to remember. Yeah, that one was written on the day of the recording.
Oh, God.
So it was written. Actually, no, that's not true. The recording was next day, and all the guys were flying in from Iceland for it. We did it in Windmill Lane Studios, which is where U2 recorded and Van Morrison and all that. So it's not a cheap studio to go into. And they were all arriving and I had nothing written. So I had this kind of melody and the text, and I sent the melody, the one-line melody off to Philip, and I said, Philip, have a look at this. And Philip went, oh, okay, yeah. What do you want me to do? And I said, I don't know. So we went into studio.
This really is a rock band. This sounds exactly like rock band
what
stuff.
we're doing. I'm used to working on the fly. I'm used to making things up as I go along. And it also means that when you're working, there's that great sense of energy about it, because people, actually, I would call it not inspired. The word is terrified. So the terror transmits. And what you hear in this recording is a bunch of guys going, what are we doing? And you know what's there? The essence is what Philip is singing about.
Right.
He's saying, bitter is the wind tonight. It tosses the wild waves. We won't see the Vikings coming because it's too dangerous for them to travel across the water. And the text comes from the 9th century, I think, and it's in the Irish language. And it's terrifyingly real because it's just a fact. Today they won't come and kill us. So we have one day, one night without fear. And I think I wanted to portray that very much. And the irony of the video is that it was actually recorded in the land of the Vikings, which is Iceland. And when I played this video for people for the first time in Iceland, they went, that's Iceland. But everyone else goes, whoa. And I'm there going, whoa. And someone's saying, that's the view out of my back window.
Yeah, that's my backyard, yeah.
That's my backyard. So it is epic. It's epic.
It really, really, really is. We're going to leave it there with you. I want to play this video. I really cannot thank you enough. Again, you're making my heart sing just to be able to be around you and talk with you, and make my heart break that we couldn't spend our time together. I hope we get this chance.
Here's to the future, Eric, because there will be one, I hope.
There certainly will. And with that, thank you, Michael. And this is Bitter Wind. Could have talked to that guy all day. Wow. Michael McGlynn, what a fascinating, intelligent, thoughtful, caring guy. Been such a fan of his music for a long time, and what a joy to bring him and his contributions to this show. Just so you all know, we have developed what's going on with Chor Leoni Inside a little bit, and I just wanted to lay that out because it's getting enriched, I think, every week here. So on Wednesdays, as you have just done, you tune in live to see the live stream at 7 p.m. Pacific time. And we'll have the folks on generally live unless they're far, far away and can't stay up too late. And then on Thursday, we will be releasing our further inside, we're calling it essentially a podcast that will come up on YouTube. And that's going to be a much more extended and in-depth conversation with our guest artists. We'll find out a little bit more about them biographically. We'll find out a little bit more about them on how they work and their process, their thoughts about singing choral music, as well as do a deep dive into one of their pieces. So tomorrow, about 1 o'clock Pacific time, that will be released. And again, if you do all of your subscribing to YouTube and get your notifications, you won't need to do anything. YouTube will take care of that for you. We'll also be archiving each week our Chor Leoni Live and our Chor Leoni Inside and Chor Leoni Further Inside on our website. So you can go to that live stream page and access both of those offerings throughout the week after the show has aired. So Thursday through Wednesday, and then the whole process will repeat again. We're also doing a rebroadcast of the live stream, so that'll happen on YouTube and Facebook, as well as the choral stream. A shout out to them who are restreaming this show. It's fantastic having them a part of this. And that will happen at 9 a.m. Pacific time on Sunday morning. So there's a lot of opportunities for you to get a chance to see this. If this time doesn't work for you to hear it live, you can TiVo it and watch it a bit later. But we're trying to make the offerings varied, allow for you to do a little bit deeper listening if you want to do, but to make this show a bit more music centered. So I think that's the housekeeping. I want to bring in right now one of my my cohort in crime here, one of my good friends, Phil Jack, our producer. Oh, Phil, where are you, sir?
Hello, I'm back.
Hi, it's good to see you.
Well, it's good to see you too. You're the only person I see these days.
Pretty much when we do these things. We had a little bit easier this time because we had recorded Michael previously, and I don't know if you got a chance to look at any of the comments or questions. I know we couldn't do live questions from Michael this time, but anything salient come out of the peanut gallery there on Facebook or YouTube?
Well, I think it's overwhelmingly said that the guys in the choir are super excited about Monum. There's a little bit of regret, obviously, because we didn't get to see them this year. But I think to a man, they all say, oh boy, I hope we get to see them soon. And it goes the same for people in our audience who are in chat as well.
Right, and I think I said this in the Further Inside podcast. It just warmed my heart to be able to talk with Michael, but also broke it because I realized that we weren't going to get that time together. So I'm feeling it too. But what a remarkable guy, and I think such different ideas, don't you think, Phil, than the kind of the typical things that we hear out of choir directors like this?
Yeah, I think the approach that he takes with Monum is, and especially the way he describes it, is definitely quite remarkable, quite interesting. And I think even just us listening to that gives us an opportunity to gain a bit of insight into our own art and also into yours.
Yeah, and I think every group's going to operate and be different. And thanks for Michael to the shout out to Chor Leoni of thinking that that we have something unique that we do and definable when we sing. So that's fantastic. I want to before you go, want to make the big announcement for next week's guest, which is, I'm super excited about this. We were going to have Monum for this Van Man, but we couldn't get them here, so we put them on the show. So we're also looking backwards to previous Van Mans, and we will be having members of Chanticleer on the show next week. So I'm really looking forward to that. Anybody that knows me knows that they were such an influential group to me in my formative years as a choral musician, and frankly, they're a big reason why I do what I do. So super excited to have them on the show, and they'll be live with us. So get your questions ready. As we're playing this last song, if you also have comments of other people you might want to see on the show, we're happy to listen to those as well. Well, we have one more piece for you, and this is a piece that was the first winner of Chor Leoni's C4 choral competition. Every year we do a choral competition of Canadian composers, and we had our very first year a bunch of submissions. We brought those composers in, and Frances Farrell won as our first composer, and she wrote a set of proverbs. It was a multiple movement work, and they were all lovely, but the last movement was, I think, the crown jewel in the piece, and we've dubbed it "How Long the Winter." And it's ostensibly talking about waiting for spring to happen and the change of seasons and how we get from winter into spring. But I think much more than that, it's about hope. It's about living in a place where hope may not be, and trusting in the promise of a spring, both in the world and maybe in our hearts. And I thought, well, that will be a lovely sentiment to go out on tonight. This is from a performance a number of years ago, put together with a beautiful video by Phil Jack. This is How Long the Winter. when winter comes, can spring be far behind. Keep some hope in your hearts, everybody. We love you. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Keep a song in your hearts, and we hope to see you next week. Thank you very much.
Ooh, yeah, yeah. They say it's all right. They say it's all right. Say it's all right. Have a good time. 'Cause it's all right. Whoa, it's all right. Now we gonna move it slow.